At 76, Mick Channon's family opens up on Crash. The horrifying crash that nearly took Mick Channon's life in 2008 marked a sad chapter for a man who should have been enjoying his second career. What was meant to be a happy retirement from football turned into something darker. The M1 motorway accident not only killed his best friend, but left scars that never truly healed. Now, as Channon reaches 76, his family has begun speaking about how that single moment changed everything for the man once celebrated for his windmill goal celebrations and racing success. In August 2008, Mick Channon's car crashed on the M1 motorway near Leicester. The vehicle carrying Channon, his son Jack, and his close friend Tim Corby struck a concrete pillar. Channon suffered multiple serious injuries: a broken jaw, broken arm, broken ribs, and a punctured lung. His teenage son, Jack, was also in the car, but was released from hospital relatively quickly. The worst outcome was the death of Tim Corby, aged 63, who was driving when the accident occurred. Corby wasn't just Channon's racing agent, he had been his close friend for over 30 years. A post-mortem reportedly indicated that Corby may have suffered heart failure immediately before the crash. From his hospital bed, Channon was described as being absolutely devastated at the loss of Tim. Yet in later years, he brushed off the tragedy with tough talk. Car crashes and cancer operations, that happens to everyone. It's how we handle it, he said, hiding his pain behind gruff words and a facade of resilience that many saw as callousness. The crash came when Channon was 59, old enough to know better, some might say, about the risks of racing around the country. He returned to training horses as soon as physically possible, throwing himself into work rather than reflection. Those close to him noticed his already short temper grew even shorter after the accident. Long before the crash, Channon had built a reputation as one of sport's most difficult characters. His own son Jack, in a candid book, described him as grumpy, foul-mouthed and short-tempered. Hardly the glowing tribute most sons would offer their father. Others who worked with him called him abrupt and dismissive, with an aggressive and perpetually demanding nature. His language was infamously colourful. One reporter noted that a transcript from an interview 40 years earlier would have been completely unpublishable due to the sheer volume of swear words. When questioned about his blunt manner, Channon simply shrugged. "I suppose I'm a bit like Marmite. I do speak my mind, and that suits some people and doesn't suit others." Channon hailed from a modest background, described as a lad brought up on Salisbury Plain in a council house with an outside toilet. This working-class origin fueled his willingness to challenge traditional norms, particularly in the often rarefied world of horse racing. "People assume that you've got to have been a jockey or a public schoolboy to train horses, but that's a load of bollocks," he once declared. Despite success in two completely different sports, a feat accomplished by only a handful of individuals, he never quite earned the respect given to other sporting icons. The football and racing establishments kept him at arm's length, a working-class hero to some, but a vulgar outsider to many in power. By 2023, at 74 years old, Channon was still picking fights with the establishment. When bookmakers introduced affordability checks, he publicly announced he was boycotting betting altogether, a dramatic stance from a lifelong gambler. "I liked having a little flutter, but I refuse to bet now," he declared. "The world's gone mad. It's just crazy having someone telling you how much you can bet. What do you want them to do? Run our lives?" He claimed the measures were spoiling a very good sport for a lot of people, yet failed to acknowledge they were designed to protect vulnerable people from addiction. His angry reaction showed a man unable to adapt to changing times, fighting against sensible safeguards while framing himself as the victim rather than considering the bigger picture. This self-centered perspective seemed to be a recurring theme throughout his long career. We can't deny Channon's impressive sporting achievements. In football, he scored 185 goals for Southampton, becoming their all-time record goalscorer. He also netted 21 times in 46 appearances for England, a respectable international strike rate. His famous windmill celebration became an iconic image of 1970s English football. The crowning glory of his first spell at Southampton came in 1976 when the club, then in the second division, defeated Manchester United 1-0 in the FA Cup final. Despite Southampton's relegation in 1974, Channon had remained loyal, a commitment that resonated with fans but was rarely acknowledged by the wider football community. As a racehorse trainer, his record was equally remarkable. After being initially refused a training licence, reportedly due to his maverick footballer image, he persevered and eventually saddled 19 Group 1 winners. Umsein, purchased for a modest £33,000, amassed prize money approaching £4 million and finished runner-up in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe on 3 consecutive occasions. In 2012, Channon finally realised a lifelong ambition when Samitar won the Irish 1,000 guineas. But these triumphs always competed with stories about his abrasive behaviour. While other successful trainers earned respect for their class and dignity, Channon became known for his colourful language more than his undeniable skill with both human and equine athletes. His transition from football to racing came only after what his brother described as stern words, telling him to get off his abime and stop feeling sorry for himself. Even his successes seemed to come despite his personality, not because of it. In October 2022, after 33 years as a trainer, Channon finally announced his retirement. The licence for the historic West Ilsley stables, previously owned by the Queen, passed to his son Jack in 2023. On paper, this looked like a well-planned succession. But Mick couldn't truly let go. Reports showed him still deputising for Jack at racecourses, hanging around like a ghost, unwilling to move on. He continued to express his opinions loudly, creating an awkward dynamic where staff and owners were never quite sure who was actually in charge. To his credit, Jack quickly proved his ability, achieving over 60 wins with a 15% strike rate, suggesting the son had inherited his father's eye for a horse without the accompanying baggage of his abrasive personality. Yet, his father's shadow still loomed large over every victory and defeat. That terrible crash in 2008 might have been a turning point for someone else, a moment to reflect, to grow, to become gentler with age. Many who suffer near-death experiences report profound transformations. But for Mick Channon, it was just another bump in a road he continued to travel at full speed. While he survived physically, something essential seemed forever stuck in that twisted metal. The ability to evolve, to soften, to adapt. These remained crushed alongside his broken bones. His famous windmill arm would never quite work the same after being broken. A fitting metaphor for a man whose forward motion continued, but whose ability to change direction was permanently compromised. His forthright views never softened. He remained critical of racing authorities. It's like politics and religion. Nobody agrees on anything. I'd get them all in one room, find the strongest, and then have a dictatorship. Of modern football, he lamented, I'm totally disillusioned. There's no values or loyalty anymore. Yet, for all his flaws, there's something almost admirable about Channon's refusal to change. In an age of media-trained sports personalities, his unfiltered character stands as a relic of a different era. The crash couldn't break his spirit, though some might wonder if a little less spirit and more reflection might have served him better. When asked about his journey, Channon offered a rare moment of perspective. I'm in my 70s, and I've done 2 things I've absolutely loved. It's all about living your life. Looking toward his future. I'm a lucky lad. I've still got interest in horses, which is something I can have until the day I die. Now at 76, with his son carrying the Channon name forward in racing, perhaps there's still time for the old footballer to find some peace. After 2 remarkable careers and 1 horrific crash, Mick Channon's legacy remains as complicated as the man himself. If you've enjoyed this look at one of British sport's most controversial characters, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more sporting stories.